Welcome back to the It's Bigger Than Me podcast. I'm your host, Molly Trotter Gomez. I have one of my favorite people on the podcast here. This is my dear friend, business partner, mentor, all the things. She'll like to say, I'm to be your mom, which is not true. This is Michelle Schaffer. Love, 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 love that I get to have you on the podcast. And specifically, Michelle, we could talk about a lot of things, but today we are talking about Restore My Soul. This anthology just came out, the very, very first out of the Kingdom Alliance Publishing House, and you are the publisher. So this is like your first baby for this book with the publishing house. And I would love for you to just kind of share like why an anthology, why the publishing house? You're a woman of many visions and ideas. So please share with us.
First of all, I could be your mother because you're the exact same age as my daughter. But yes, I love you so much and I'm so proud of you. Love working with you. We have so much fun together. Okay, all the things. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That feels very weird to me to say, and to think about the fact that, I guess technically, I think technically I'd be called the publisher, maybe. I'm still not 100% sure on that. But I love books. I've always loved books. And, books for me over the course of my, especially younger life, in my late teens and all through my 20s, books were my mentors. Books were when I felt like the most afraid. I didn't have mentor. I didn't have what we have at Kingdom Alliance. I didn't have these relationships. I didn't have access to these people, or any people really. And I would find it in books, and books have meant so much to me. So I became like a real one of those weirdo people. And one of the book series that I loved, and I was part of their fact that they were multiple best-selling authors, was the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And I would read those books and just like cry. Just these heartwarming stories that just brought me, I don't know, hope, inspiration, just made me feel like maybe my story wasn't so bad, because you read some stories that are worse than yours, some are not as bad, but all of them ended with this feeling of hope. And um, when God was downloading this like wild and crazy vision for this company, it was very expansive, as you know, Molly. It was like, here's this thing, but the idea goes like there's a lot of vertical in the idea. And one of the things was that I told everybody, one day we're going to write books and we're going to tell stories of the people inside of our company. And so that was like planted in the back of my mind. But someday in the future, 10 years from now, whatever, who knows. And like God always does, he brings people into the circle that are the fulfillment of a piece of the vision. And so, I don't know if have you interviewed Camille as part of this interview
Have
series?
not been able to interview Camille. No.
Okay, well, Camille is really the reason that this happened at this time. So Camille is one of our members. She's also the creator of the Kingdom Author Academy. And so as she came to me and said, I have this idea for this academy, blah, blah, blah. And this is what she does. She's a book coach. She's had her own publishing company and did all these things. And I shared the vision with her of what I would love to do. I said, love the idea of the Author Academy. Like, let's go. My answer is always yes. And a couple days later, she sends me an email, literally days later. And the first sentence, I was already like in. I didn't even need to read the last, but the first sentence was like, let me paint a picture for you, or let me cast a vision for you. And I was always
Done.
like, I'm done. Yes. And she said, we could create, because I told her I wanted to write books. I wanted to write an anthology, blah, blah, blah. And she says, and this was like in last year in May. I think it was in May. It was either in April or May that we had the conversation. I think the conversation was in April because we began the process in May. She said, we could write an anthology now. The timeline's tight, but we could do it and we could release it at Activate. And she goes, and we could help create our own publishing company. And the rest is history. I mean, it was a very fast process. I learned a ton. I learned so much in the process that the first two books that I authored, I was like, ugh, I like these are nothing compared to what we've done here with this incredible level of skill and excellence. I'm so proud of everything about this book. I'm a weirdo anyway about books. And like I like the way they smell. And I like the paper and the paint. Like I'm that weird person that just all the little details about it. And I could not be more unbelievably proud of what we have produced. The stories of the women and the way that the publishing team, Camille and Elizabeth, worked with the authors to help them really create stories that did for me as I was reading them what the Chicken Soup for the Soul books did for me. Just warmed my heart, helped me to feel like I wasn't alone in the world, felt connected to these other women, and always ending with this unbelievable hope that is walking with the Lord, right?
I love it. I love the vision. I love the background. I love all the things. And, I'm sure you have all heard me talk about Michelle before. She's the CEO and founder of Kingdom Alliance. She is the visionary. She is the one that got and downloaded this massive vision and movement too. And the Kingdom Alliance Publishing House, this anthology is a piece to that puzzle, a big piece, but there's so many big pieces. And this woman is like the center of all of that vision. And so I'm just, again, elated that you get to be on here and we get to hear from you. Now, a lot of the other interviews that I've done with the other authors, I mean, time and time again, I just kept hearing, I had to go back and reflect, back and reflect. And there was a lot of healing that happened when they had to go dig deep and reflect on these moments into their own chapters. So they're restoring themselves while helping other people restore through their story. I would love for you to share, your side of things with your chapter. Yours is the very first one in the book. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was like for you and what is this chapter? Cliff notes, because we want them to go read it. What is it about?
Well, first and foremost, I wrote a completely different chapter than the one that's in the book. I sat down and I wrote a whole chapter, and it was okay. I didn't feel super connected to it when I wrote it. And it was kind of funny because I was like reading all some of the other author stories. I was like, oh, those are so good. Those are so good. And just felt like, kind of want about mine. And my mom is one of the authors, and I sent her my chapter, and she goes, it's good. She goes, it's good. Because I was like, I don't know. I don't feel great about it. She goes, no, it's good. She goes, but why aren't you writing about this? And I said, I don't know. And she goes, I really think you should write about this. And I said, well, because I had already written it. And by the way, I'm long-winded. Like, I'm not short of words when it comes to speaking or writing. And we had a limited amount of words. Each chapter like had to be a max of 4,500 words, which it sounds like, oh, that's a lot. It's not.
No.
It's much harder to share a snippet of your story in 4,500 words than it is to share your whole story. It's much easier to do that. And so I just said, well, I don't know. I already wrote it. It was already hard to like break my story down into like 4,500 or what this piece of my story. I said, but maybe. I told her maybe. And I sat down that day and I started writing what is in this chapter of the book. And this is really even still, it's still almost cliff notes, but it's a portion of my life. It's a portion of my story that takes a number of the things that I have walked through on the business side, where I have been betrayed, things fell apart, and put it all down like in one chapter. And the funny thing was, as I was writing it, because a lot of my story, Molly, like you've been around for a long time. You've heard me share many different pieces of my story, and um, there are certain parts of our stories in general that like we kind of don't want to relive. That's the truth. Like we share them, we use them, but like to go back in them is like junky. And so I'm writing this chapter, and when I was done writing it, I was so depressed. I called my mom and go, I wrote it, but I like feel terrible. I feel terrible about this. This is like depressing when I put them like, and it wasn't even all of it, but it was so many things sequentially that happened over the course of my life that I was in this direction and it like blew up. And so I said, just read it. I'm probably not going to use it, but just read it. And I'm so depressed right now to read
Mhm.
all these things in order. And she read it and she wrote me back. She goes, no, she goes, I don't, she goes, I see hope and perseverance and all these things. She goes, this is definitely it. And I felt more connected emotionally to that chapter. And so it really is kind of it's a business story, really, of a lot of things that I walked through and how God restored it. I mean, the truth is this company is the restoration of so many things. The women and men in this company is God's redeeming power. And looking back at just that chapter, so many of the things, so many relationships that ended in betrayal and backstabbing and, all the things that happened, like it's all been redeemed. And I think that is such a hopeful story, because everybody I know has been betrayed by a person or had a business thing that, or, a direction they were going in business that didn't turn out the way that they thought. And certainly Kingdom Alliance, that was not on my bingo card ever. Like, it was not part of what I was looking for, what I thought I was going to do. I mean, God always knows, but I certainly didn't know any of it. So all of it really is, again, just the hope that is walking with the Lord.
It's so good. I mean, it's like, it's those like, ah, I don't think that was it. And it's like, that's it. You're just like, you're disconnected. But, your mom, what a sweetheart your mom is. Your mom to come in there and just be like, speaking that truth of like, like what this direction. Because yes, knowing you, I know there's so many different directions that you could have gone, but knowing that particular story of, or stories, accumulation of all of the things that you've gone through. I mean, if you even just like get like a visual here, if you were to look at Michelle's back, not physically, there are so many like lashings and marks from arrows and just so many people that have shot her in the back. Like, it would just be scarred to high heaven because of all the things that she's gone through. But it has made her into the woman that she is, to be the visionary, to open this company that brought this anthology out, that's bringing more restoration out. And I want to highlight what you said. This really is a place of restoration. I mean, I know for myself personally, like it was like so many things of like, okay, it's open. I think this is going to be it. And no, this is not. This is open and it's not. And what happened here and what was it all for? And for my story to come and be here, God used every single part of my professional story, at least. And I'm sure there's a lot of personal that I'm still figuring out that's coming into play, which is just so amazing. Because, like you said, it's redemption. It's redemption. And so many people need that in a world where hope just looks lost. They need to have a community or even just a book on their shelves of like, where can I turn to just mark up this page and know that, you know what, I'm not alone and I can hold it. As much as we love the digital world, it's amazing to get on calls and connect with people, but like having something physical is amazing. So I would love to know, as you hold this, knowing all the stories that are in it, like how does this make you feel? Because there are so many amazing stories and moments in this book from every author.
I think it's interesting I don't know if you've read if you've read the whole book, but it's interesting because a lot of the stories didn't end with like that and they lived happily ever after. And I think that is super real and hopeful, because things don't always turn out. I mean, in the case of my mom's story that she wrote in the book, my sister died. She didn't get healing on earth. That's not the fairy tale, ending that you wanted, but it's still a story of hope. And what I believe wholeheartedly is that, why we share our testimony, why we do all the things that we do inside of our community, and highlighting as many people as we can, is because like if he walked you through something, if he walked her or him through something, he can do it for you. And so the more that we hear stories of all different backgrounds, of all different endings, it gives us the courage to keep going and knowing that, like, even if it doesn't turn out exactly like I hoped or exactly like I wanted, that there is still a plan. There still can be joy. There still can be restoration and redemption. Maybe it doesn't look the way that I thought. But that's one of the things that I really loved, because, some of the stories had phenomenal, like, the perfect little period at the end of the sentence, but some of them didn't end that way. Some of them ended like, they didn't get that. My sister didn't, she wasn't healed on earth. The marriage didn't get restored. Things didn't look perfect, but in God's perfect plan, though, that brokenness can turn into something really, really beautiful. And so it's exciting. And, as I read, I was weird because we had everything digital before it like got printed. And I would try to read it online. I couldn't. I had to wait for the actual first author, like the pre-published copy to come out. And I read it and I couldn't. I got through it in a day and a half in between all my stuff, because there's something different about reading. It's like a page in people's diary. It
Mm.
is really what you're getting. You're getting a glimpse into somebody's diary. They're pouring their guts out. And what our publishing team did was they took the raw material, of these stories, and they went in and they poked like, what about this though? And I see that it looks to me, and I was able to read all the comments that the editors and the proofreader they were making, and they'd be like, I feel like you're skipping something out here. There's more to this. And they really dug in. And so what was produced on these pages is really um, healing, beautiful, filled with hope. I know I keep saying hope, but I think it's the thing that keeps people going. I think it's the thing that's more powerful than anything else in the world, including fear, is hope. Like if you don't have hope, I just but if you have hope, even the tiny, like even a glimpse, right? Even what does the Bible say? A mustard seed. Like, even if you have just a small amount, then you can keep going. And this book is so overflowing with hope.
Yes. And I just heard, like, as you were sharing, I just heard this, like, because of this book, people will get to, it's going to sound weird how it's going to come out. They're going to be able to suffer better. Meaning,
Yeah.
we're all going to suffer. How you choose to suffer, you can still find joy, you can still find hope, you can still have redemption. There's all of that. But a lot of people are like, hurry up, I just want to get through this. But there's something different when you see other people in their suffering story. And there was a lot of suffering in this, but it didn't end that way for most, right? Like there's still somewhere it doesn't have the pretty period at the end of the sentence, but there's still something hope filled in there. And so many people have gone through so much suffering and they're like, I'm just the only one. Let me just crawl in this hole and hurry up, Lord, just let it pass over. But that's not the way that he wants us to suffer. Like suffering is going to produce perseverance and all these other things that get to come through it, a lot of which came through your story. And so I just kind of heard suffering better in my mind. And I knew that was from the Holy Spirit, which sounds crazy. But at the end of the day, like how we choose to suffer in that season really determines what comes out on the other side. And even from talking with some of these other authors who have never written a book before, never been on a podcast before, they were just mind blown. And just even the look on their face of what was broken off. You could just see this radiance. You could see this light. You could see all these things of like, wow, this actually does matter. And now I even have a physical copy. I'm on people's podcasts. Like I get to share this more and more. It's just so amazing to watch them walk through it because people like you and I were like, yeah, we'll write the thing, we'll do the thing. Like we love that. And we've gone right into that fire. But there's nothing better than seeing the joy on somebody's face of like, I've never done this before. And it actually matters. I don't know if you've experienced that at all either.
It does matter. And the thing that the enemy wants you to think is like you're broken, nobody cares about you, you have no meaning, you have no purpose. And the thing like you hear this your whole life. Well, you know, everything happens for a reason. That is such BS when you're in the middle of something really horrible. That doesn't feel right. You lose a child. Everything happens for a reason. What was the reason I lost my child? There was no reason that we can come up with on earth that will ever like make me feel better about losing somebody that I love. So that's such a cop out. But I will tell you that like when you're suffering, when your pain, when your loss can do anything to help somebody else, it takes a small piece of your pain away, knowing that your pain had purpose, maybe not for you, but maybe for somebody else. And I just listened, my mom just did she's part of the virtual book tour that's going on right now. And I listened to her interview yesterday with Lemon, who's the director of marketing for the publishing house. She's doing an amazing job. And and so my mom had a couple people reach out to her after the fact. And to hear my mom talk about to me how like her story helped this one person who just said thank you so much, like I am watching her pain get covered with healing as her story actually just brings somebody else some relief or joy or hope or whatever it is. And so, you know, you say this, your story is meant to be mentorship to somebody else. This is like your catchphrase. And I like to say in a very similar, but in a lot of different ways. Like your truth sets other people free. Your truth is a key that unlocks something for somebody else. And what the enemy wants more than ever, this is what like isolation, keeping people separated and keeping people not believing who they are and keeping their mouths shut. Like he wants more than anything for you to never ever share, never talk about it. But every person has something in their life that is supposed to be used for somebody else. Just, to take them up one more rung on the ladder, or help them to get one step further, or help them to, you know, um, you've seen that picture of like it's Jesus reaching his hand down into the water. Have you seen that one? It's a beautiful, so whoever the artist is, it's beautiful. It's been used everywhere. But like that's what your story does for people. It's God using what God has done for you in your life, even if it doesn't feel like it had any impact. You're still here. If you have the ability to share your story, you're here. You made it. Like that's a win. And it's when you share it, you're literally taking God's hand and reaching out to somebody who's sinking. And that's a powerful thing to be a part of. And it's exciting to do what we do here in Kingdom Alliance, to encourage people to do that.
Yes, exactly. That you literally just took the words out of my mouth. I was like, that's exactly what we do here. It's that hand that reaches out of like, gosh, it's just like, is it ever going to, oh, this thing appeared. Like, let me bring you up. Let me bring you out. Let me serve. Let me help. And let me be Jesus to you, because that's what we get to do. I just love that. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I mean, obviously, if you don't have this by now, go get it on Amazon. It's an Amazon bestseller for obvious reasons. When you open it up, you'll like probably be like Michelle and just want to just keep reading and like binge read, forget Netflix, like binge read this and really just get that hope. And then it's going to inspire you. And I'm pretty sure many have read these stories and they're like, wow, like this, I can see my story in this. I can have redemption in this. Like maybe I need to write. Maybe I need to be in a community where somebody can help me with something like this. Like Kingdom Alliance is that community for you. Like whether it's, walking through our author academy, our speaker academy, just being loved on by the people here. Just being able to have opportunity to grow, save, and earn, just to do more. Like so many people are stuck in an environment where it tells them they can't do things. And we're in an environment that we created that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. And like this is available for you. And so as we wrap up here, Michelle, is there anything that you want to say, anything at all? I know you're a woman of many words, but so many heartfelt and just amazing words. And I love all of them. And I just keep going.
I would just say this, like, as you were sharing that, I just keep, and I have heard for many years, the Lord continue to use this particular word when it comes to what we're doing and what we're working to create around the world, and it's community. Loneliness is literally an actual health epidemic globally around the world. And, that's part of the enemy's design. So when you have the privilege to come into this community with these people, I say it all the time. I say it at every event, on every call. It's the best people I've ever been around in the whole world. And I am not exaggerating. And I have been around a lot of people in a lot of different environments. I've never been around people like this. And it's the fact that we keep Christ at the center, that we love like Jesus loves. Like we don't judge people. You get to come exactly as you are. If you are messed up on drugs, don't even know what you believe in God, like sleeping around, doing all the things that are seemingly destroying your life, destroying your body, you're welcome here. And we're not going to sit there and be like, listen, you're destroying your life. We are going to speak life into you, and we're going to love the hell out of you. We're going to love the pain out of you. We're going to love you, and we're going to speak into you the identity that actually you were designed for. And there's something about this community where we're growing together. We're all rowing the boat in the same direction. We are there for each other. And I believe it's what church was always designed to be, because we love people enough not to let them stay stuck. I don't think it's loving at all to look at somebody and be like, oh, like if you need me, I'm here. That to me isn't love. That is, that's you being passive and being like, listen, it's not my problem. But we're all in this life together. We all are part of the kingdom. So it's like bear up each other's burdens. This is what we're called to do. And we're called to become disciples and go make disciples of the world. And it's what we're doing inside of this community. I'm so excited about it. Last thing, we are taking applications now for our second volume. This is volume 1, or I think that's what you call them, volume 1.
Yes, volume
So
one.
we are, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll write one a year, and they'll each have a slightly different theme, but they will be wrapped around, people's stories and how redeeming it is to walk with God. And I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm like, I want a book with all men. Like I want a whole, like all
Yes.
men stories. And we don't have any men in this one, but hopefully we'll get some books with men. So thanks for having me, Moles.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. It means the world to me that you would lean in, listen in, and be able to hear the value that's being shared on this show. Don't forget, if you love this episode, rate the show, leave me a review, be sure to share it with a friend, and don't forget to tag me on social media. I will definitely be giving you a shout out. Also, come say hi, drop in the DMs. I would love to be able to hear what stood out to you the most on the episode and if there's any topics that you would like to hear on the show. We'll see you next time.